Hello everybody, Ryan McNeil. This is Builder by Day. I want to try a little experiment here today. I'm going to drive and talk, but I want to just start the video before I leave the driveway here. Start recording. I'm hands-free. I'm not going to be looking at my camera when I drive. I'm certainly not going to be touching the camera when I drive. Don't want anybody freaking out that I'm driving and I'm, distracted or any of those things. I drive and talk all the time. This is nothing new for me, so I'm going to be driving and talking. All right, we're off. There will be lots of edits and cuts for these videos where I'm driving and talking. There are a few reasons why I wanted to try this driving and talking podcast action. I want to see if this works. If this works, if this method of podcasting or YouTubing, whatever you want to call it, this method works, then I'm all over this shit, man. I can do this like every day. There's always something that's, when I got to drive somewhere every day. So there's always things for me to bring up and discuss. The other thing that I think, honestly, is pretty cool about this is that from the viewer's perspective, for you guys out there watching, I feel like this would be more entertaining, instead of like watching me sit still in whatever stationary environment that I'm in. You can watch me drive around beautiful Nova Scotia. I live in a place here in Fall River that it's a really pretty place. So when you drive around, I drive a truck and the truck has big windows. So as you guys can see, you see lots of scenery going by in the background at this side window, back window, and so on. And because I live in this very pretty place here in Fall River, I think it makes for a great atmosphere, atmosphere, the right word? Scenery, I guess, imagery. Now, sure, I have a studio, which is also in Fall River here in my office, that's where you would see me having most of the conversations, or all of the conversations, I guess, to date, other than the few that I've done sitting in this truck stationary. And that studio is built for the purpose of making things look as good as possible. But you just can't compete with nature. The nature outside, as I'm driving around here, is, in my opinion, much prettier to look at than any studio I can build. So then it just comes down to whether or not there's enough, if the audio is okay, and I think it is. I've tested this a couple of times now and recorded the audio with this little mic that I'm wearing, and it seems to sound pretty good. Everywhere around this neighborhood is just a pretty place to, look, there's a little swap meet. Get your yard sale on. Popo, let's see if I get busted. If he sees my camera. This could be interesting. I got the camera rolling. Let's see if, no, I looked it right dead in the eye too. Okay, I didn't get busted. Which brings me to the next thing I'm going to talk about. I did look into the laws around driving and filming yourself while you drive. The laws are pretty straightforward. Okay, you can't be touching your phone or handling it, and you're not supposed to be distracted, and that makes sense. I agree 100%. We don't want people looking at their phones, texting and driving, FaceTiming their friends while they drive. No, of course not. But I'm not distracted by this. Now, currently, I'm at a light, right? And I'm stopped. So if you see me making, googly eyes at the camera here, it's because I can. But when I get going, I won't be looking at the camera. But that brings me to the next thing I was going to say. I put out a video a couple of days ago where I was talking about modular home stuff. But when I recorded that one, I had my camera vertically, like the way you would film for a, short video, I guess. And the problem with having your video filmed vertically is that it doesn't make for a very nice YouTube video, because they're shot in wide angle, of course. And also, you don't get any of this scenery rolling by. So it's not nearly as, it's not nearly as visually appealing as filming this bad boy in wide angle. So I posted that video, the vertical video, a couple of days ago. We put it on TikTok, and apparently TikTok flagged it for two things, apparently. They flagged it for dangerous activity. So in other words, TikTok doesn't like you to be driving and talking. So, okay, I guess that's fine. We just won't put this shit on TikTok. But they also flagged it for misinformation. So I don't know what the misinformation was. I asked my editor Brendan to look into it, but he mentioned that if you appeal something, apparently then they might give you a strike. This is all new to me, man. I'm just figuring this out as I go. And and you don't want strikes. I'm like, okay, I guess, but I wouldn't mind knowing what TikTok determined was misinformation based on what I, as a home builder, was saying about new construction in modular homes. But anyway, nevertheless, TikTok doesn't seem to like driving videos, so whatever. I won't put these videos on TikTok, I guess. I'll put them on YouTube. What I would really like to see happen, I would love it for these videos to be well received. And if I could, this one's a little choppy because I'm all over the place and it's the first one and I'm trying to get a feel for how this works. And I have no idea how it looks because I haven't done this before. So I haven't had a chance to take this video file and pull it off my phone and have it edit it and then review it and have a look at it and see what I think. So until I know what I think, this one's going to be a little choppy because I'm still kind of feeling it out. But the other thing I'm going to mention here is that in about 30 seconds, I'm going to put these sunglasses on because I'm trying to drive with no sunglasses on, just for appearance purposes. So, you guys don't think I'm trying to be like undercover brother here trying to drive around. But I mean, it's sunny and it's getting a little too sunny for me. So I'm fixing to put these glasses on. Oh man, this is so much better. As soon as I put my hat and sunglasses on, I am like a different person when it comes to having these conversations. I feel like I can kind of relax and just not have to worry about what I look like at all. One of the things that I struggle with, just getting comfortable with, is the idea of being on camera. And I'm just, I don't know, I guess I'm just self-conscious of how I look, and not like, I don't mean in a self-esteem way. I mean from the perspective of wanting to present as professionally and aesthetically pleasing as possible, I guess. But that's a lot of work, man. I don't really, that aspect of it, I mean, I built the studio and bought all the equipment and have all the cameras, and like I set it all up to look as good as it can possibly look, because I know that there's value in making it look good. I'm always aware of the fact that I'm on camera, and therefore I'm thinking about even when I'm in the studio, I'm thinking about how I'm sitting, and you're trying to sit up straight, you try not to move around too much, you try not to talk with your hands too much, you try not to touch your face and break all the broadcasting, journalism, whatever rules, on camera rules. But I don't like doing any of that stuff. I just like having a conversation the same way I would if I was actually having a conversation with somebody. So in this case, when I'm driving in the truck, I just imagine that there's somebody in the passenger seat here and I'm talking to them. The majority of the conversations that I have via phone, I have those conversations in my truck. I have had some of the best conversations of my life, the happiest conversations of my life from this truck, and I have had some of the worst conversations in my life while in the truck. Yeah, so there have been times when I make a point I've had to have a conversation with somebody via phone or even in person, and I'll get in the truck and either make that phone call or put that person in the truck and go for a drive and have a conversation. Done that lots of times too. I just find it's very easy to have a conversation in a truck. Now I realize that for some people, driving and talking is like not something that they do on a regular basis or something that they're even comfortable doing. Certainly not engaging in any kind of meaningful conversation while driving. 100% I get that. For me, I'm comfortable doing it because I drive so much. I've done so much driving in my life that driving is, I don't know, it's just second nature to me. And also I do a lot of talking, so talking's second nature to me. And for me, driving and talking is like walking and chewing gum. Now, I know some people who have trouble walking and chewing gum, and I would recommend that if you have trouble walking and chewing gum, you don't try driving and talking. If you're somebody who, when you drive in your vehicle, you need 100% of your focus and then some, and you're like, your blood pressure's up and your anxiety level's up and you're driving, you're like super focused on what you're doing, that's how you drive, then I would recommend that you don't have phone calls with people. And I know many people like that. But for me, This is such a natural environment for me to drive and talk that honestly, I want this to work. I want this driving and talking version of the podcast to be the podcast. If I had it my way, this would be the podcast. I would go for a drive, have a topic or a couple topics, a couple things in my head that I wanted to bring up or talk about. No different than if I got in my truck and made a phone call to somebody because I had something I needed to talk about with that person. I don't write it down. It's not like I have notes with me when I'm doing that. So it's the same thing here. I don't need to have a laptop and notes and everything in front of me. I just have a couple of thoughts in my head. Maybe it's a 8 or 10 minute video. Maybe it's a 30-minute video. I don't know. But if this could be the way in which I deliver my podcast, if I can do it while driving in my truck, then we got a made in the shade, because this is the most comfortable way for me to have a conversation. And because when I'm driving in the truck, going back to what I was saying earlier, because when I sit in my studio or anywhere for that matter, there is an element of that environment that makes me self-conscious, I guess, of how I look. And again, remember I told you, again, I don't mean self-conscious I don't mean self-esteem issues. I just mean aware of the fact that you're on camera and you're thinking about how you sit and how you look and how you say things. I mean, although saying things is different because you can edit it out later, but you can't edit how you look, right? But when I'm driving in the truck like this and having a conversation, hat on, sunglasses on, I have absolutely no consideration whatsoever to how I look. The visual component of this is a non-factor for me. I'd rather watch somebody driving and talking and see the beautiful countryside streaming past them than just watch some dude sit in front of his accent wall or whatever it is and shoot the shit into a mic. I have no disillusions about who I am, where I fit into society. I am home builder, business owner, take care of the people around me, and I've built some really good working relationships and so on with people, and I think a lot of it's based on the fact that the people I know and do business with, I feel the same way about them. Everybody gets along. We all respect one another and appreciate each other's skill set. And I appreciate that I do have a conversational nature about me. I can have conversations with people very easily. I can talk to anybody, literally anybody. I can talk to somebody who is very, very simple, let's say. And I could talk to somebody who's very sophisticated. And I can bring my game up to be pretty sophisticated if need be, but I don't walk around sophisticated. I walk around pretty simple, like hoodies and hats and sunglasses and driving a truck and swearing too much and so on. Heard that expression before when somebody says he or she cleans up nice. Well, I clean up nice. Take off my hat, take off my sunglasses, put on a collared shirt, stand up straight, tuck your shirt in, put on a smiling face, don't curse and swear. Sophisticated. I could sit with anybody and have a conversation. I prefer to have conversations with people that are kind of like down the middle, where I consider myself, right? People who probably have another gear, but they also probably have a lower gear, right? So they have that. I think a lot of people are in that situation. You have your regular everyday self, that your outward public self, where you put a little effort into your appearance, you put a little effort into being perhaps even a little more polite and congenial than you normally are. And then you have yourself when you're just at home, or you're with your buddies or your family and you're a little more relaxed. You know what I mean? You don't have any concern whatsoever what you look like. You throw on your sweats or your shorts or your hoodie or whatever you're wearing, and you're just relaxed. So yeah, basically, if I can have some success with this driving and podcasting thing, then I'm all over this, man. This is how I would do it. And I can produce a lot more content this way because I drive every single day, multiple trips every day. And even if it's only for 8 or 10 minutes, sometimes that's all these videos need to be, is 8 or 10 minutes. So if I can have this, if I can do it this way and deliver the message this way and it's well received and everybody likes it and it kind of takes off a bit, then I'll do it. But the other thing that I realized from my little bit of experience so far in the first 6 or 7 months of this podcast thing is that you don't really know what's going to work until you do it. And you can't just sort of do it once and then see what happens, because that's not how it works. The way it works in YouTube is you got to put out the content, and it doesn't matter who you are, you're still going to be subject to the these general rules of thumb, which if you use, like, say, if you put out 10 videos, you're going to get 4 or 5 videos that don't go anywhere. They just kind of flop, basically, relatively speaking, to your viewership. Then you're going to get, 3 or 4 videos that do okay, and you'll probably get like 1 video out of the 10 that hits pretty hard and does well. And so you're looking for that one. By doing it once or twice or even 3 times, I don't know if it's being well received yet. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bang out, I'll try to get 8 or 10 of these driving and talking podcast videos. Each time, of course, I'll come back to something that has, a different topic. And so I, of course, got to also realize that the topic is also going to have an influence on whether or not people are tuning in. Part of the reason why I like doing it this way is that I don't take myself too seriously when it comes to this, right? I want to be clear with everybody. I'm a pretty opinionated guy, and some of the people tuning in, at least, if not the majority of the people tuning in, are tuning in to hear my opinion about things. And so I want to do that. I want to continue this podcast. I want to be about my opinion on whatever the subject matter is. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that my opinion is worth any more than anybody else's, but I have some shit to say, and I have the means to say it. And there are some things I think need to be said, but I don't take myself too seriously. And because I don't take myself too seriously, and I don't think anybody else is going to take me too seriously, but they might appreciate some things that I have to say from time to time. Part of like driving in the truck and shooting the podcast this way, part of why I like it is that the environment itself, the fact that I'm in my truck and talking and wearing a hat and a pair of sunglasses, that already implies to the person on the other side of this camera that I'm not taking myself too seriously, right? When I'm sitting in the studio, you look at it and say, oh, okay, well, this guy's put some effort into this. He's like built a studio. He's got professional lighting. He's got this thing going on. He's sitting up straight. He's got a laptop out. Oh, look, he looks like he means business. And I do. And in that environment, I'm in my office, so I'm at work. I was just down the hall in my office, sitting in front of my PC doing some work. And I went down the hall and around the corner and back down in the other hall and down into the studio and pulled out my laptop and discussed whatever it was we were discussing that day. So it's more deliberate, and I'm putting some effort into it. But even then, it's not because I've taken myself seriously. It's because I'm having a conversation about something that perhaps it's almost like increases the legitimacy of it if I deliver the message in the right environment. But again, that's not really the way I would prefer to do it. I would rather it be conversational. So when people come in and when they come to the studio, and when I have a guest that comes to the studio, and that guest sits down and we have a conversation, it never fails that the first half hour, 45 minutes, you're starting to kind of get things going, and then everybody forgets that the camera's there and they forget that they're on a podcast, myself included, and you just start getting into a good conversation with the person that's there. And that's why I always find that the later parts of the podcast are the better parts of the podcast when I have a guest. So a good example of that is this past week's podcast. I had Reg Manzer from the Elevate podcast was in. Smart guy, good guy to talk to. He and I, for instance, I could sit with Reg and talk easily for a couple of hours. We got a lot of stuff to throw around there. He's an informed person. He pays attention to what's going on in the world around him. He pays more attention than I do to some of those things. So it's interesting because I like hearing from people who know more about a subject matter than I do, and then I can ask them about it, and then, you know, as a result, I then know more about it because I inquired. But that was a good conversation. But my point there is that we had to cut that off very abruptly because Reg had somewhere to be, and we kind of just ran late, so I had to just you know, Brendan waved at us that time was getting short, so I had to cut it off. You'll see that in the episode if you look at it. It's like the last, Reg is talking and we're just getting into something. He kind of mentions about some stuff there, and I would have normally dove into that and kept the conversation going, but I had to sort of cut it off. And the other thing about that environment, when I'm sitting having you know, a conversation with somebody, is that sometimes that conversation, I shouldn't say sometimes, almost always, it has a bit of an interview feeling to it, and I'm not trying to interview people. That's not really my thing. Normally, I'm the one being interviewed, and not for my personal life, but for my potential customers or clients, and they're interviewing me about a home that's going to be built or a project or what I might know about something. And sometimes that turns into some backstory, and sure, but my point is, normally I'm the one being asked the questions. I'm not the person asking the questions. And so that's a bit unnatural for me, especially if it's somebody I'm having a conversation with and I don't know them, like I just met them, for instance, and you know, I don't know necessarily what, I don't know anything about this person, so you know, I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot ever. I'm never trying to make anybody look bad or make them uncomfortable in any way. So that can be challenging when you're having conversations like that. And then I also look at the videos for us that have performed best, and they tend to be more so the videos where I'm delivering monologues, where I'm the only person there. Yeah, so suffice to say that driving in the truck and discussing, having a conversation like this matches much more closely to the level of seriousness with which I take myself and the level of seriousness with which I would expect you guys to take me. And that means that if I get talking about something and it works me up and I start cursing and swearing and I tell somebody to go f themselves, then that's just how it is, because that's what I would say. Now, I also realize that, you know, you can try to cut down on some of the foul language because not everybody wants to hear it, so we'll bleep out the F-bombs typically, but I'm really just trying to have the conversation as close to my normal dialogue as it can be, okay? And even though I might be talking about serious matters, that doesn't mean that I take myself seriously or think that I'm some kind of, you know, what would the word be? Some kind of authority on the subject matter. Unless we're talking about housing. Now, if we're talking about housing and construction, then yes, I do consider myself an authority on the matter because I know a lot about that stuff. I don't know anybody who knows more about building single family custom homes than I do. I don't know anybody who knows more about than I do. As a matter of fact, if I knew somebody who knew more about it than I did, then and they were looking for a job, I would definitely hire them 100%. But that's not realistic, because if anybody knows more about housing and construction than I do, then they're already self-employed. And if they're not, they should be. Which brings me back to, I want to come back to the conversation that I posted earlier this week in the vertical video, where I was talking about modular homes. I did a little analogy of modular homes versus stick frame site built construction, and how that compared to working out in a gym on a rowing machine versus rowing a rowing boat in a lake, for instance. I'm not going to rehash the analogy, but I want to go back to the modular home conversation a little bit. Okay, first of all, I said this in the last video, but I want to say it again. I want to be really clear on this. I want to make sure there's no confusion here. I am in no way finding fault or in any way shitting on modular homes. Modular homes definitely have their place, right? And there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with modular homes. I'm also not saying, for the record, I'm also not suggesting that modular homes are of poor quality. That's the last video that I made where I did the comparison. I was getting at modular homes being of a different quality than stick frame construction, and they definitely are. There's no denying that. But I'm not suggesting that modular homes are of poor quality. That's not true. I don't believe that for 1 second. And as a matter of fact, in that video I also mentioned, not only do I not believe that modular homes are generally of poor quality, but as I mentioned in that previous video, there was a time when I looked very closely, got very close to becoming a modular home dealer, partnering with a modular home manufacturer to deliver modular homes as an option to the clients that we couldn't service with site-built construction because they were too far from where we reside, and we can't get our, subtrades and suppliers will only travel a certain distance. I looked at a modular home dealership as an option for me to offer product to clients who are outside of our serviceable area. Now, I design all of the homes that I build. So what I wanted to do with what I was thinking on the modular home front is that I wanted to have my own series of home plans available that were, I wanted them to be exclusive to my business, and I wanted them to be designs that I came up with. There are a number of reasons why people like our houses, and one of those reasons is that there's a lot of thought that goes into design. I put a lot of thought into functionality. When I design a new home, a plan that I haven't built before, I could spend days, if not weeks, coming back to that. Now, I don't mean constantly straight through, but I'll design a plan and I'll probably get it where I like it, and then I might be, kind of thinking on it for a couple of days, and then I go, I'm not sure about that, and then I might adjust, the way the deck works or the front porch, or it could be anything. But my point is that I enjoy doing the home design part of it, and I'm pretty good at it. So my thought with the modular home side of it was that I would come up with some designs while working within the limitations of modular homes, because there are limitations with modular homes. That's one thing you have to be aware of. That's one thing, for instance, there is no denying. Modular homes do have their limitations when it comes to design, because they have to be delivered. They have to be put on a truck and shipped to the site. So they have limitations when it comes to design, for sure. So what I wanted to do was come up with some designs, that home plans that I designed, that fit within the limitations of modular homes, but are still uniquely my plans, and then be able to offer these plans to people outside of the serviceable area where I work, where we build. And I haven't entirely given up on that. That could definitely still happen. That's not to suggest that that's not going to happen. I just didn't pursue it at the time. But, things change, and I could definitely foresee a scenario where if I had a particular real estate development or real estate project and modular homes made the most sense, and that could be because of where the development is located, or it could be even site conditions perhaps. I still would consider it now. That is very much going to be a cost-conscious development, right? Price is going to be paramount in that scenario. Every time that I have gone down this road of exploring this option, what I find is that when I get that mini home or modular home priced out from the modular home manufacturer or dealer, at the end of the day, I can build it for less. So unless it's in a location that I can't physically get to, or feasibly get to, I should say, then I'm going to build it. because it doesn't make any sense for me to pay more to build something that ultimately is at best not quite as good quality. It's okay, but I can build it better. Certainly I'm not going to pay more for that unless it is in a location that is outside of my service area, and even though it's more, it still makes sense. And ultimately, that is exactly what probably every modular home, mini home buyer does. Even if they don't realize that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. You're buying a mini home or a modular home because you don't have the option of building it for whatever reason. And even though it's a little more money and a little less quality than what you could build on site, it's the only option you have. And if it still makes sense, it's still very nice quality, and it's still within your budget, then that's what you're going to do. And I would be no different than any other client. If I decided to go modular or mini homes, that's because I've done the math, and with the other restrictions that exist, I've decided I'm going to go ahead with it. The difference in quality I can get my head around, because if I'm selling them to other folks, and as long as the expectation is there, as long as the folks I'm selling these homes to know exactly what they're buying and they understand it and they're happy with it, then I'm happy. If they're happy, I'm happy. But when it comes to the price, man, I have a hard time getting my head around that. To come back to the video and the analogy that I used, this modular home thing for me, it's not really even about modular homes. The reason I have a problem with this is that this is going to be some more government bullshit from the federal government. This is going to be a scenario where I can see what they're doing. I know what they're doing, and it really pisses me off. The Prime Minister of Canada is a significant shareholder in a company that is an enormous real estate development and housing company, and they are deeply, deeply invested in modular homes. And what he's saying is he's going to build, Mark Carney, our Prime Minister, and the Liberals are saying that they are essentially going to build a modular home industry. They're going to take it from, think about this. They've said that they're going to use modular homes as the answer to the housing crisis and the affordability crisis. They're going to invest billions of dollars, that's billions with a B, billions of dollars in modular home innovation and facilities and loans to, probably forgivable loans, I would assume, loans to modular home manufacturers and so on. And I have a real problem with that. And it's not because I have a problem with modular homes. It's because I have a problem as a taxpayer with my government investing, and I use that term loosely. I have a problem with, as a taxpayer, my government spending billions of dollars on something that I know is a very bad idea and will not produce the results that they are claiming they will produce. It's a joke. Modular homes represent something like roughly 5% of the market when it comes to new construction in this country. There's a reason for that. And the reason modular homes don't represent more is not because the modular home people can't build more houses. Are you kidding me? They're set up to build volume. That's their whole game. Their whole game is building more. There's this illusion that somehow there are countless people out there waving their money around ready to buy modular homes, and we just can't build them fast enough. The modular home guys just can't build them fast enough. That's horseshit, man. That's not how it is. You don't create a market. You don't create demand by drastically increasing your ability to increase your supply. You can build all the factories and warehouses and manufacturing plants and do all the innovation you want when it comes to modular home construction. That will have absolutely zero impact on the demand for modular housing. That would be like if I said, listen, man, the only thing holding me back, if I build a dozen custom homes a year, and I said, never mind that, man, I don't want to build a dozen. I want to build 500 custom homes a year. Okay, cool. What do you need to do that? Well, I'm going to need a bigger office and storage facilities. I'm going to need a lot of staff. I'm going to need a bunch of trucks and cars and project managers, designers, salespeople, laborers. I'm going to need to bring some crews in-house. I'm not going to be able to do this if I have to rely on sub-trades entirely. So I'm going to need framing crews, siding crews, plumbers, electricians. Probably should get into my own foundation crew at 500 homes a year. Basically, I'm going to need everything that I currently sub out. I'm going to need to bring in-house and massively increase my overhead and the number of employees that I have. Now imagine if I just did that. We can even make it simpler to get your head around. Let's say if I went to the bank and somehow they agreed to loan me, you know, tens of millions of dollars, let's say. I put together a business plan, said, hey man, I'm going to build 500 custom homes a year. And here's the math on what it's going to look like if I build 500 custom homes a year. And this is what I'm going to need to do it. And if the bank said, yeah, man, that sounds like a good idea, which by the way, they won't. But if the bank said, yeah, that's great. Here's the $20 million you need to go set up all your overhead and grab all the staff you need to do that. Poof. I have all the overhead, all the infrastructure, all of the employees that I need to build 500 custom homes. The bank gives me the money, and tomorrow I pull into the parking lot of the office and I have dozens of employees, all the tradespeople, experienced tradespeople and staff that I need, all the trucks. Everybody's got a logoed shirt, man. We are ready to roll. But it doesn't work that way. Despite the fact that I set up all this overhead and all the infrastructure and all the employees, that has absolutely nothing to do with demand. I didn't in any way increase the demand for my product. I just decided I'm going to ramp myself up to be able to build more. But for who? Who are these houses for? And that brings me back to the modular home thing. This brings me back to the part that I have a serious problem with, that people are just ignoring. The Liberal government under Mark Carney, who is a significant shareholder of Brookfield, who is in the modular home business, they've decided they're going to build an enormous modular home industry to meet the demand for housing. But specifically, they're saying they're going to meet the demand for modular housing. But there isn't demand for modular housing. Who are all these houses for? But let's just say, for argument's sake, you got a modular home company that's doing a couple hundred units a year. There's probably one or two around here in the Maritimes that do that. Okay, great. But how come you're not building 1,000 units a year? Like, are you at maximum capacity? Are you telling me you literally can't build more modular homes and there's just a lineup of people just waving money at you to build modular homes? There's not. That's just complete bullshit. This modular home thing here in Canada, what's happening is Mark Carney and the Liberal government and anyone else, all of their interested parties who stand to gain from this, these guys are going to take billions and billions and billions of taxpayer money, and they are going to attempt to build a modular home industry, and they're going to attempt to build for demand that doesn't exist. They're basically going to create the demand by using these modular facilities to build boxes for immigrants to live in. That's what it's for. That's what they're planning on doing. And then they're going to tell you that they're doing such great things because look at all the units we built. Yeah, for who? Who's moving into these things? People who didn't previously live here. You're spending billions of dollars to build these facilities and all this infrastructure to build units for people that don't currently live here that you're planning to bring into the country. Think about that. That's what people need to realize, and this is the part that everybody should be screaming about. I don't care how much it costs. We should not be constructing any housing whatsoever that is aimed at housing people who do not currently live in this country and are going to be coming here to live for free in subsidized housing. That is insane. And any government, any politician, any member of the government who says that should be immediately challenged upon that. And they should be challenged to get very specific about who these houses are for. Because they're talking about using modular construction to literally double the number of houses that we build in this country. Every year, they're going to build, whatever they said, 250,000 more, they say homes, but they don't mean homes, they mean units. 250,000 more units per year. For who? Who are all these units for? Why are we doing that? What is the total number of unhoused people in the country right now? That's what I'd like to know. How many people currently in this country are unhoused? Let's just say, I'm going to pick a number. This isn't the right number. Let's just say, for argument's sake, it was 100,000. If there are 100,000 unhoused people in this country, then put together the case, the business study, whatever you want to call it, for what it's going to cost to house these 100,000 people. How are you going to do that? Present us, the taxpayers, with that one. And then let's decide on how we approach that. But then when you move on, then when we get that taken care of, okay, now there aren't any more unhoused people. The only reason we would need more housing then is if you're going to bring more people into the country. And if you're going to bring more people into the country, why? Why are you bringing them in? You better be bringing them in to do work. You better be bringing them in because they're coming here for school, for instance. And if they're coming here for school or for work, then they're paying their own way. We as the taxpayers should not be in any way subsidizing even $1 of anyone that comes to this country. We are bankrupt. This country is bankrupt. And we have bankrupted the future generations beyond repair. We're not doing anything to change that. Nothing is being done to lessen the debt. Nothing. It just keeps getting worse. And since the debt keeps growing and we're bankrupt, the idea that we would bring anybody, even one person, into this country and then subsidize that person, give them food, shelter, money to live, is insane. There are Canadians already here. There are people who have lived here their whole life, who paid taxes their whole life, who don't have enough money. They're going to food banks. They're living in poverty. They don't have enough money, or they're living unhoused. There are people who are unhoused who have jobs. They're going to work. Not only have they paid taxes their whole life, they're still paying taxes. And they're unhoused. By no means would I consider myself a socialist, but I do want to live in a country where those who can help those who need help. But I don't want to live in a country where those who can help have their money taken from them and given to other people who don't even live in this country. I want to help the people in this country who are from this country. I don't want my tax dollars being spent in other countries for people that I don't have anything to do with. It's so backwards now. We're so far beyond that. This is why, and this is when you get into these conversations, why I've had conversations with folks where I'm like, you know, man, I don't want to sound all doom and gloom, but we're not going to get this thing turned around, man. The people in charge are just, it's not that they don't get it, it's that they don't care. They're not going to change it. They're going to keep giving our money away to people who aren't from this country. They're going to keep bringing foreigners into the country and providing them with food and shelter and living allowance. And it's complete and utter bullshit. The modular home stuff is really not the problem. Modular home building, that's just one method of construction. That's all it is. It doesn't matter to me what method is being used. The point here is, what the hell are you talking about? What are all these houses that you're talking that have to get built? There is a certain amount of the population that is unhoused. So identify, what is that number? Is it 100,000? Okay, great. There are 100,000 people in Canada unhoused. So build 100,000 homes. Put together a plan and do that. Now nobody's unhoused. But by the time we get to that point, like 2 years from now, and all the houses are built, and all those people who were unhoused should now be housed. And then suddenly you go, oh wait, well there's another 250,000 unhoused people. What the where'd they come from? Oh, we brought them in. What do you mean you brought them in? oh, we brought them in from all these other countries, these third world countries, and they came here for a better life. And so we're going to build a bunch of units for them to live in, and we're going to give them a living allowance and food and so on. My problem, that's where the problem is. The problem is who these houses are for, what these units actually are, and who they're for. And there's no transparency on that. It's a complete smoke and mirrors operation, and it really pisses me off. And because they're going to do that, I'm going to keep talking about it. Okay, so that's it for the driving around in the truck first episode, wide angle driving in the truck podcast. If you like or don't like or have a comment on the driving version of the podcast, let me know in the comments down below. If you like it, I'm going to do more of it. If you really like it, I'm going to do a lot more of it. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Feel free to let me know what you think of the video in the comments below, and hopefully this will be the first of many. Later.